Tonight I'm going to a party at my ex-husband's place, Jessica said, casually brushing her hair back like she was announcing a dinner reservation. I didn't interrupt. She leaned against the doorframe in her red dress, the one she knew drove me crazy years ago, and smirked. And don't wait up. I won't be sleeping till morning. There it was. No shame. No filter. Just a declaration that she was going to get intimate with another man. And not just any man, Kyle, her ex-husband. The one she promised was a total loser, ancient history. And nothing compared to you, Mark. I stood there, stunned, coffee cup in hand, feeling like I was watching a scene from someone else's life. The walls didn't crumble. My knees didn't buckle. Instead, everything sharpened. My vision. My pulse. My thoughts. She expected me to panic, plead, maybe break something. But I just set the cup down and said, "Then let me introduce myself. I'm your ex-husband now, too." Jessica blinked. The smirk faltered. For a half-second, her bravado slipped. She didn't expect that. She expected the old Mark. The doormat. The guy who kept quiet when she'd work late, 5 nights a week. The guy who paid for spa weekends that she never came back rested from. The guy who begged for affection like a damn dog. Not this version of me. "You're being ridiculous," she said, her voice sharper now, defensive. "Don't get all emotional. It's just a party. Kyle invited me weeks ago, and I didn't want to upset you by bringing it up." I laughed. Out loud. And that laugh, it surprised both of us. "Jessica," I said, "you literally told me you wouldn't be home tonight. That you'd be out all night. And you thought I'd just sit here, what, playing video games and pretending my wife wasn't off relighting old flames with her ex?" She stepped closer. "Don't twist this. You've been distant. You barely look at me anymore. What did you expect?" There it was, the blame shifting. Classic Jessica. "You're right," I said. "I have been distant. From you. From this fake marriage. From pretending I don't notice when you delete messages, change passwords, shower after every grocery trip. You know what? I should have been more distant. I should have walked out years ago." She narrowed her eyes. "So what, this is it? You're just giving up?" I took a breath. A deep, cleansing one. "You gave up a long time ago. I'm just catching up." She left, slamming the door behind her like it gave her some kind of win. But the silence that followed wasn't hollow. It was peaceful. That night I didn't drink. I didn't cry. I didn't scroll through old photos wondering where things went wrong. Because I knew where they did. And I knew exactly what came next. The next morning, I woke up early. Made eggs. Packed a bag. And then I opened her laptop. She forgot to log out. The messages were all there. She wasn't even careful. Kyle had sent her photos. She sent worse. Voice notes, nasty jokes, and vivid promises. It wasn't just about rekindling something. It was about humiliating me. She told him I was boring, weak, and clueless. Said she couldn't wait to come back from the party and look me in the eye like nothing happened. My hands shook, not from pain anymore, but from resolve. Something deep inside had flipped. And it wasn't turning back. I picked up my phone. And called my lawyer. By the time Jessica came stumbling through the front door the next morning, hair messy and heels in her hand, I had already seen everything. She gave me a smug little glance, probably expecting some dramatic meltdown or icy silence. Instead, I greeted her with calm indifference. Not because I wasn't furious, but because I had finally reached a part of my life where I was done performing for her. I didn't say a word. I just watched as she walked past me and headed straight to the shower, humming to herself like she hadn't just shattered our marriage the night before. And while the sound of running water echoed through the walls, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop open, staring at screenshots, hundreds of them. The messages were brutal. She had been talking to Kyle for months. Their conversations weren't just flirty. They were vulgar, explicit, and dripping with mockery toward me. She told him how she pretended to be tired every night when I wanted affection. How she used me for stability. How she laughed at my pathetic loyalty. Kyle wrote things like, Bet he still makes you dinner, doesn't he? Tell him I said thanks for taking care of you until I was ready to have you back. She replied. He's so clueless it's actually adorable. I'll give him a gold star before I leave. That line? That one damn line lit something inside me I didn't know I had. Rage, yes, but not the kind that screams and breaks things. No. This was cold, calculated, and burning from the inside out. I printed the messages. All of them. Labeled them by date, timestamp, even added notes. By the time she got out of the shower, I had 3 folders ready, one for my lawyer, one for the divorce court, and one I was going to hand directly to her. She came into the kitchen wearing one of my t-shirts like nothing had happened. She even smiled. Hey, babe, she said casually, pouring herself coffee. I'm starving. You make breakfast yet? I slid the folder across the table. She stared at it, confused. What's this? Open it. She flipped through the first few pages. Her smile faded. Her hands stopped moving. The color drained from her face like someone pulled a plug. But still, she tried to talk her way out. Mark, this isn't what you think. No? I said, cutting her off. Because what I think is that my wife has been lying to me for months, calling me a joke behind my back, and planning a reunion tour with her ex like it's a freaking rock concert. She shut the folder. Okay, look, yes, I screwed up. But it's complicated. Kyle and I have history. I stood up, my voice calm but firm. So do arsonists and fire, Jessica. That doesn't make it a good idea. She tried stepping closer, like her usual manipulative charm would work. Mark, come on. We've been married for 18 years. We can work through this. It was a mistake. Mistake? I laughed. You planned this. You wore my shirt while you talked to him. You kissed me goodnight and then snuck out the next morning to meet up with your ex. This wasn't a mistake, it was a mission. She folded her arms, eyes narrowing. So what now? You're just going to throw everything away because of one night? One night? I said, grabbing another printed message. You want me to read the one where you told him I was like a neutered lapdog? She flinched. That's not just one night, Jessica. That's who you are. She dropped the act. The tears dried up instantly. The sweet tone vanished. Fine, she snapped. You want a divorce? Good. Maybe now I can finally have fun without feeling guilty. No, Jess, I said, heading toward the door. You stopped feeling guilty a long time ago. I just finally stopped being blind. I didn't slam the door. I didn't scream. I just walked out with the copies and a calm mind. That day, I filed for divorce. No threats. No ultimatums. Just action. I didn't even make it past the parking lot of the lawyer's office before Jessica started calling. 10 missed calls in under 5 minutes. She must have realized this wasn't another one of my silent treatments. This wasn't a cold night on the couch, or a 3-day guilt trip until I got over it. No, this time I was doing something she never expected. I was leaving. Not just physically. Mentally. Emotionally. I had unplugged from the web she spent years spinning around me. When she realized I wasn't going to answer, she switched tactics. Text after text flooded my screen. Mark, please, we can talk about this. You're being rash. I was just confused. You know I still love you, right? And then, I didn't even do anything with Kyle. I just needed attention. The gall of that one hit differently. As if meeting your ex late at night in secret, sending him pictures, and planning a sleepover didn't count as betrayal unless she physically got naked. Classic Jessica logic. Twist reality until she could live with herself. I ignored every message. That night, I packed a bag and checked into a small Airbnb. 1 room, no distractions. Just me, my laptop, and the task of rebuilding what was left of myself. The quiet was unsettling at first. I hadn't truly been alone in almost 2 decades. There was always her presence, her voice, her perfume lingering on the sheets. But in that silence, something else began to grow, clarity. I thought about how it started. Jessica wasn't always this manipulative. Or maybe she was, and I was just too naive to see it. She had a way of making you feel like you were the center of her universe, until you realized you were just the orbiting satellite, providing warmth while she basked in attention from every direction. And Kyle? He was a walking red flag I should have torn down years ago. He wasn't just the fun guy from her past. He was the reminder that no matter how much stability I gave her, she'd always crave chaos. She didn't want safety. She wanted drama. And drama meant validation. It wasn't just the betrayal that cut deep, it was how easy it was for her to discard everything we built. Our shared history, our years of growing together, the promises, all thrown away for some cheap thrill and a few dirty messages with her ex. That night, I finally called Brian, my lawyer. "I'm ready," I said. Brian didn't even hesitate. "Then let's burn it to the ground." The next day, I served her the papers. She answered the door wearing the same robe I bought her last Christmas. No makeup. Eyes tired. But no tears, just that same look she always had when she didn't get her way. Annoyed. Inconvenienced. "What's this?" she asked, flipping through the envelope. "Your freedom," I said. She scoffed. "So that's it? 18 years down the drain?" I shook my head. "No. 18 years were gone long before Kyle showed up. You just gave me a reason to admit it." She tried one last time. The crocodile tears came back, the soft voice, the trembling lip. "I didn't mean to hurt you." I leaned in closer. "That's the thing, Jess. You did. You meant every word. You meant to lie. You meant to humiliate me. You just didn't expect me to walk away." She slammed the door. And for the first time in years, I felt a weight lift off my chest. This wasn't the end of my life. It was the beginning of finally living it. The day after she got the divorce papers, Jessica went silent. No texts. No calls. No fake apologies or manipulative guilt trips. Just radio silence. It should have been a relief, but I knew her too well. This wasn't surrender. This was the calm before she tried to burn down the entire house with me inside it. I spent the next few days putting my life back together piece by piece. Moved more things into my new place. Deleted all our shared streaming accounts. Removed her access from my bank. The little things people forget when breaking free from a toxic marriage, but I remembered. Every password reset felt like reclaiming a part of myself. That's when the messages started rolling in. Not from her, from our friends. People I'd known for years. Couples we used to vacation with. Guys I played poker with. Even my own cousin Derek. "Hey man, just checking in. Jess says you've been acting crazy? I heard you blindsided her with divorce papers after a small fight? She told me you've been jealous and insecure for months." I nearly broke my phone reading the lies. She was rewriting the story already. Repainting herself as the victim, me as the unhinged husband who couldn't handle her independence. That was always her move, break something, then cry about the mess like she wasn't the one who shattered it. I didn't respond to anyone. Let them believe what they wanted. I knew the truth, and soon they would too. But one message did get a reply. It came from a mutual friend, Laura, who had always been closer to me than Jess. She wrote, "I don't buy her story. And just so you know, she's been meeting up with Kyle long before that party." I replied immediately. "How long are we talking?" She answered with something that made my blood boil. "At least a year." I didn't want to interfere, but I saw them together last spring. They weren't just talking. "I'm sorry I didn't say anything sooner." A year. A whole damn year of lies. Fake smiles. Forced date nights. Sleeping next to me while fantasizing about someone else. And all the while, she made me feel like the distance in our marriage was my fault. That I wasn't trying hard enough. That I was emotionally unavailable. No. She was emotionally unfaithful. Period. I thanked Laura and told her the truth. I sent her a few screenshots. The conversations between Jess and Kyle. The plans. The photos. Everything. Her reply? "Jesus Christ. She's a monster. If you need anything, I've got your back." It felt good. Finally, someone saw her for who she really was. Later that night, Jessica called. I ignored it. She left a voicemail. "Mark, you've turned everyone against me. Why are you trying to ruin my life? We could have worked it out." But you had to make this ugly. I sat on the edge of my bed, listening to the delusion in her voice. Still blaming me. Still pretending she was the one being wrong. So I called her back. Jessica, I said calmly, you ruined your own life. You played stupid games. Now you're losing everything that came with pretending to be a decent person. She went quiet. Then, a moment later, you think you're better than me? No, I said. I know I am. And I hung up. I stared out the window for a long time after that, watching the city breathe below me. For the first time in years, I wasn't walking on eggshells. I wasn't wondering what mood she'd be in. I wasn't apologizing for things I didn't do. I was free. But the storm wasn't over yet. Because when a narcissist starts losing control, they don't go down quietly. The silence didn't last. A few days after our last call, Jessica switched from guilt-tripping to full-blown warfare. I knew her well enough to expect it. She tried playing the victim, pretending to be hurt and lost, but when that failed to pull me back in, she chose her favorite weapon, destruction. It started with social media. She posted a photo of herself in a tight dress with a glass of wine in hand and some cringe-worthy caption like, "Cheers to freedom and leaving toxic people behind." The likes came in fast. The comments were worse. "You go, girl! Glad you left that controlling freak. You're glowing. Divorce looks good on you." It was laughable. The woman who cheated, lied, and humiliated me was now parading around like she had escaped my toxicity. I could have gone online and exposed everything, posted the screenshots, the recordings, the voice notes. But I didn't. I didn't need to lower myself. But she wasn't done. She messaged my boss. Claimed I'd been mentally unstable lately. Said I was going through a breakdown and might not be fit to work. She even brought up personal things I'd shared with her during our marriage, fears, insecurities, mistakes, and twisted them into professional concerns. Luckily, my boss Aaron pulled me aside instead of firing me. "Mark," he said, "you and I both know you're not the problem here. I got a weird email. I'm ignoring it, but you should know she's trying to screw with you." That's when I realized Jessica wasn't just lashing out. She was trying to ruin me. I started locking everything down. Changed all my passwords. Called the bank. Froze joint accounts. Set up alerts on my credit. My lawyer helped push the divorce proceedings into overdrive, especially after I handed him the updated evidence of harassment. Jessica didn't like that. She showed up at my building. Not the house we used to share, the new apartment I just moved into. Somehow, she found the address. I walked out of the elevator that night and there she was, leaning against my door like some high school stalker, wearing a fake smile that didn't match the venom in her eyes. "Can we talk?" she asked sweetly, as if we were two people reconnecting after a silly fight. "No," I said bluntly. "You can leave, or I'll call the cops." "Seriously?" She laughed, stepping forward. "You're going to treat me like a criminal now?" "You are a criminal, Jessica," I said. "You committed adultery. You invaded my privacy. You tried to destroy my job. And you've been smearing my name online for the past week. You don't get to talk. You get to leave." The mask slipped fast. Her voice rose. "You think this makes you powerful? Cutting me off? Acting like I'm the monster? You're pathetic, Mark. Always have been." I didn't even flinch. "Then why are you still here begging for attention?" She slapped me. Hard. I didn't hit back. I didn't yell. I just pulled out my phone, showed her I was recording, and calmly said, "Leave. Now. Or the cops are coming." She froze, eyes wide. That's the thing about people like Jessica. They're only brave when they think they're in control. The moment you push back with calm confidence, they fall apart. She stormed off, cursing under her breath, and I shut the door behind her, heart pounding but satisfied. That slap was the last gasp of a woman who realized she had lost everything, and couldn't spin it in her favor. But even as I sat down on the edge of my bed and tried to breathe, I knew one thing for sure. This wasn't over. Not with someone like her. And the next move? It wasn't going to be a slap. It was going to be something much worse. 2 days after Jessica slapped me in the hallway and vanished like a bad dream, I got a call that nearly made me drop my phone. It wasn't her. It was Child Protective Services. The voice on the line was calm, professional, but firm. "Mr. Walker? We received a report about potential emotional instability and unsafe living conditions connected to your residence. We'd like to schedule a home visit." I was stunned. At first, I thought they had the wrong number. I don't even have custody of any kids. Jessica and I never had children. But then the truth hit like a sledgehammer. Jessica filed a fake report. She'd taken the war to a new level. Trying to sabotage my job didn't work. Playing the victim online didn't hold. So now, she was going to make me out to be a danger to society, just because I walked away. The rage in my chest ignited instantly, but I didn't let it show on the phone. I calmly confirmed the appointment, thanked them for the call, and hung up. My next move was straight to my lawyer's office. Brian leaned back in his chair and shook his head. "That's nuclear. She's trying to drag your name through the mud so badly that you'll beg to settle quietly. Classic manipulative ex behavior. But we're going to document everything." He helped me prep for the visit. Clean records. Clean home. Testimonies from friends and coworkers. I wasn't afraid because I had nothing to hide. But the fact that she'd go that far, that dirty, was almost impressive in the most twisted way. When CPS showed up, they were clearly underwhelmed. Clean apartment. No kids. No noise complaints. No drugs. No signs of instability. I even offered them coffee. The agent, a middle-aged woman named Karen, looked uncomfortable as she packed up her notepad. "Sorry for the intrusion," she said. "Honestly, we get these kinds of reports from bitter exes more than you'd think. I'm closing this file." "Let me guess," I said. "The anonymous tip came from a concerned friend of my ex-wife?" She smiled faintly. "I'm not allowed to say. But your guess sounds about right." I thanked her and walked her out. The moment the door closed behind her, I felt it. The fire inside me had changed. It wasn't wild anger anymore. It was strategy. Jessica thought she could break me down piece by piece. But every one of her pathetic stunts was giving me exactly what I needed in court: evidence. Not just of infidelity, but of character. Of her attempts to destroy me. So I documented everything. Every message. Every social post. Every time she crossed the line. I even installed a camera outside my apartment in case she showed up again. And she did. 3 nights later, I heard a faint knock at the door. No yelling. No chaos. Just a soft, eerie knock around 11:40 p.m. I didn't answer. I watched from the camera feed on my phone. There she was. Jessica. Wearing some tight club outfit like she thought she could seduce her way back into control. She stood there for a full 2 minutes, looking around, probably expecting me to come crawling back. When I didn't, she left. Not a word. Not a call. Just vanished into the night. That was the final confirmation I needed. She had nothing left but games. No love. No regret. Just spite, pride, and a bruised ego she couldn't manage. The next morning, I forwarded the footage to Brian. He wrote back one line. "This divorce is going to be legendary." And that's when I smiled for real, for the first time in a long time. Jessica tried to destroy me, but all she did was dig her own grave. And I was going to make sure she had a front row seat to everything she lost. 2 weeks later, we were in court. Jessica strutted in like she was walking into a cocktail party, heels clicking, sunglasses on indoors, a fake little pout that said, "Look at poor me." She even wore a white blazer, like she was trying to cosplay as some innocent, wounded saint. Her lawyer, a smug younger guy with slicked back hair and too much cologne, whispered to her like they were planning a stage play. She thought this was going to be her moment. The big act. She'd expected me to come crawling, to settle quietly, to avoid drama. What she didn't expect was that I had come prepared. My lawyer Brian stood beside me, calm as ever, holding a fat folder full of receipts, real ones. Not stories. Not emotions. Evidence. The judge called the session to order, and it began. Jessica's lawyer went first. His strategy was obvious. paint her as a heartbroken wife abandoned by a controlling, emotionally distant man. They brought up texts I sent after the betrayal. Out of context phrases. Cold, uncommunicative, aloof. They tried to weaponize my silence as abuse. Jessica even forced out tears on cue. Dabbed her eyes gently like she was starring in some courtroom drama. But then it was our turn. Brian opened with one line. Your Honor, everything they've said is a story. What I'm about to present is the truth. He laid out the messages between Jessica and Kyle. The nude photos. The timestamps. The voice notes where she laughed about playing both sides. The texts where she bragged about using me for stability while sneaking around with her ex-husband. Screenshots. Audio. Dates. Then came the character attacks she made online, Facebook posts, tweets, DMs to mutual friends, and the report she filed to CPS. All of it. Documented. Dated. Undeniable. The courtroom atmosphere changed. The judge's eyebrows lifted. Jessica's lawyer went pale. She squirmed in her seat, her eyes darting everywhere except at me. And then Brian delivered the final blow. The security footage of Jessica showing up at my apartment late at night, uninvited, dressed to seduce. He explained it as a failed intimidation attempt, one we handled maturely, by not engaging. She claims fear, Brian said. Yet she shows up alone at the residence of a man she claims she's terrified of. Your Honor, this isn't fear. It's manipulation. The judge nodded slowly. Jessica's act was unraveling, and she knew it. You could see it on her face, panic behind the makeup. Rage behind the fake sorrow. She tried to speak. Your Honor, if I could just explain. But the judge silenced her. We'll get to your statement. But I'm not blind, Mrs. Walker. This level of dishonesty and misconduct isn't just emotional cruelty. It's premeditated. Calculated. You weren't reacting to pain. You were orchestrating humiliation. Boom. Right there, in front of everyone, Jessica was exposed. For the liar. For the cheater. For the master manipulator. And it felt good. Not in a petty way, but in a just way. Because I hadn't screamed. I hadn't slandered her name. I had just shown the truth. By the end of the hearing, the judge ruled heavily in my favor. Jessica lost the right to access our joint assets. She was ordered to cover half of the legal costs. No alimony. No prolonged settlement battles. Just a clean, cold cut with her standing there, stunned, as if the entire system had betrayed her. She stormed out of the courtroom without a word. I didn't follow. I didn't even watch her go. I just sat there for a moment, breathing in the quiet after the storm. And for the first time, it felt like peace wasn't just a dream anymore. It was mine. After the final court ruling, I walked out of that courtroom into the crisp morning air like I had just stepped out of a long, suffocating tunnel. No more lies. No more gaslighting. No more Jessica. It was over. Officially. 18 years. Gone in a judge's gavel and a thick stack of evidence. And yet, as I stood on the courthouse steps watching her walk away in her designer heels and fake dignity, I didn't feel grief. I didn't feel loss. I felt clarity. Jessica didn't even look back. Of course she didn't. That would require accountability, self-reflection, two things she had spent her entire life avoiding. She got in her Uber like she was heading to brunch, not walking away from a life she blew to pieces. Good riddance. I went home that day, not to a house we shared, but to a space that was entirely mine. No more second-guessing where she was. No more wondering why she was quiet. No more rehearsing how to keep the peace around someone who only loved control. I opened a bottle of whiskey I'd been saving, not for a special occasion, but for this exact moment. I poured a glass, walked out onto the balcony, and watched the city glow under the sunset. And that's when it hit me, I survived her. All the manipulation. The emotional terrorism. The smirks. The subtle digs. The way she chipped away at my confidence until I barely recognized myself. I had come out the other side not just standing, but stronger. People like Jessica don't love you. They use you. They feed off your loyalty like leeches, twisting your patience into passivity, and your love into leverage. And the second you stop serving their ego, they call you selfish. She thought I'd never leave. That I was too soft, too scared, too nice, to walk away. But the truth is, I wasn't weak. I was just hoping. Hoping she'd change. Hoping our love still existed under all the poison. But love doesn't feel like war. And what I felt every day with her was battle fatigue. I spent the next few weeks cleaning up the mess, changing bank info, locking down my credit, clearing out the last legal details. Each task felt like cutting another thread of her web. My apartment started to feel less like a crash pad and more like a home. No perfume lingering in the hallway. No passive-aggressive sticky notes about what I forgot to do. No forced small talk that made me feel smaller every day. Just quiet. Just space. Just me. Some nights I still thought about it all. Not because I missed her, but because betrayal leaves bruises you don't always see. Sometimes I'd remember something stupid, like how she used to pretend to be asleep when I kissed her goodnight. Or how she once called Kyle, Mark, by accident, then laughed it off like nothing. And every time I remembered, the pain was less sharp. More like a scar. And scars don't hurt forever. One night, I ran into Laura again, the mutual friend who'd told me the truth early on. We met for coffee. Talked. Laughed. She looked me in the eyes and said something I'll never forget. "I've never seen you look this alive." And she was right. For the first time in almost 2 decades, I wasn't living in Jessica's shadow. I was free. If you're reading this, and you're with someone who chips away at you, who gaslights you, who makes you feel like the problem every time they mess up, walk away. You can survive without them. In fact, you might finally start living once they're gone. I thought losing Jessica would break me. But leaving her? Saved me.